Good evening and welcome to Christian Talk Radio at ChristianTalkRadio.biz. I am your host, Melisha, and I'd like to welcome you to my show tonight. I have a special guest with me tonight on my show. As always, I always have guests here, and we always talk about the word, and we always talk about helping others and the things that the Bible says that we should do to help others. And you know, I try to come to you all, to my listeners, on a daily basis, as I always do at Christian Talk Radio. And the Bible is a book of life, and it helps us to understand what Father God wants us to do. And sometimes I have visitors on my show, and I interview them. Like tonight, I have Mr. Jamel Aaron, called VA the Governor, and he's a man with a plan tonight, and I just want to share his plan with you. Thinking with a Big Head is the name of his book, and he's going to tell us a lot about that tonight, and he's going to tell us how he's helping others think with the big head, and how he's given others the opportunity to do things in life that they should be doing by being not only an example to them, but talking to them and helping other African American young men to think with the big head. And so I'm going to introduce him to you, Mr. Jamal Aaron. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, sir.
It's Jamel Aaron, yes, ma'am.
Jamel Aaron, better known as VA, the Governor. And he's all the way from Virginia tonight. And, you know, I'm just excited to have him on this show. I went to his website, and I'm going to tell you about his website and give you his website address later on in the show. But I just want him to tell us tonight about what he's doing and how he's helping others. And I just want him to just shine his light tonight. I'm going to let him do a lot of talking. I know usually I talk a lot, but tonight I'm going to sit on him and let him tell you about himself. Okay, VA, we'll get started. You go ahead and talk to my audience tonight.
Okay. My name is VA the Governor. I'm 30 years old. I'm from Virginia. I got the name because of the way that I govern myself. I've been kind of known as like the white guy who is just black. So that was kind of how I got the name, because I strive to be like the president. I wanted to use my mind to be able to take me places, and I just understood that it's really about how you govern yourself. The things that you put in your mind, the things that you say, how you carry yourself, that really just dictates where you go in life. And so I embrace the name also because I love people, and I just so happen to be from the state of lovers. So that is how I got also the VA part. So that's me. I'm 30 years old, and I'm married, and I have 4 children.
Okay, you said that you're married, and what is your wife's name?
My wife's name is Melissa. Melissa Aaron.
Okay, Melissa, and you got 2 children.
I have 4. I have 4 beautiful little ladies. My oldest is Jemiah, and she is 5. And then I have Yasmin, who is 3. Isis, who is 2, and then Tegan, who is 8 months.
Wow, that I know they're beautiful children. You know, it's such a gift from God. Children are, and so you know, it looks like you got a beautiful family there. So that's a great thing. And you know what? And the thing about that is too, your children can help you understand more about what's going on. You know, a lot of times children, we don't think that they know what's going on in life, but usually they do. And then what you've done is you've taken it to a new level by going out and helping young African American men helping them to understand some things that they should know. And I want you to tell me about that. We lost the video feed, but that's okay. I can still hear you.
Okay. I'm not quite sure what happened, but
that's okay. It's probably the weather.
And yes, my children actually were basically the driving force behind writing Thinking with the Big Head. I wanted to be able to work towards helping create a future where men will treat them the way that I feel that they should be treated. I plan to raise young little ladies, young little princesses, and I want them to be treated as such. And I just noticed that this growing trend that men and women weren't necessarily treating themselves like ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't setting the standard high for how they expected to be treated or what they expected out of a relationship. And so I wanted to do something to help create the future that I would want. And it hurts to say this, but I mean, at a certain point in time, looking for a young black man with his head on his shoulders and wanting to actually live the family life and appreciate the blessings of marriage and the blessings of taking care of their family and putting that first, it's becoming harder and harder, and it's almost becoming like looking for a needle in a haystack. And that's not the future that I wanted for my young ladies. And so instead of complaining about the problem, I wanted to work towards bringing about a solution and just an enlightenment period for our young men in general.
Yes. I like that. That's good. You go on and continue. I'm going to listen to you tonight to tell me, because that's very interesting what you just said. Helping our young men, to be the men that God has for them to be. It's not necessarily who maybe they want to be, because, sometimes what we want is not always what Father God wants for us. But I hear what you're saying. You're saying that they need to step up their game some. Because a lot of this sagging pants and all this kind of stuff that they're doing, disrespecting women, calling them B's, calling them H's, and all this kind of stuff is not suitable for a young man to be doing, although the world might think it is. And I want you to tell us about that, what you're doing to help that.
Well, I wrote Thinking with the Big Head, which is... it's biblically based, and it takes ancient knowledge and wisdom, starting with Adam and going through some famous people in his bloodline. And I'm taking this knowledge and wisdom and bringing it to the modern day and putting it in a form that young black men could appreciate, could understand, and can work with. I take life and bring it down to the level of a game and understand, and helping a young man understand that in this game of life, your goal is to create this legacy, and this legacy is created through your family, and it's shown in the Bible what your priorities are and how you progress through the stages of life. Just to give a quick example, just talking about Adam and Eve and introducing in the book Adam as the original player. And so we look at the creation of Adam and why Adam was created and how he was created with the likeness of the Creator and what this exactly means, so that the young black man can start to understand where he comes from and why he was created just in general. In the beginning of the book, I do open up and explain that the young black man, or black men in America in general, specifically black men in America, we were robbed of the precious knowledge and wisdom that comes with family, the treasures that come through fatherhood, the treasures that come with building through generations, because it was not profitable for our slave masters to bestow that knowledge upon us. So we had the finest males on the planet creating families to do the hardest work on the planet, and were taken away from them so that so their masters could make the most. And then we were so-called freed, and when we were freed, we were just put out there without the proper knowledge of what is important in life. Past money, sex, drugs, what is more, or money, sex, cars, house, all those things that we think that are important. There was real knowledge that was denied to us, and that knowledge really is the importance of family. If we were to look, our slave masters passed us down through generation after generation. And that is something that we now, through thinking with the big head, can start to appreciate, is the power that comes with family, and the power that comes through the penis, which is your power to create, which is your likeness that God created you in. And that's and that's just how the book opens up, with just explaining to the young man the power in which he was created with, which is the ability to think of something and through action bring it into reality, which is how God created him.
That's good. I like that. That is so true. That is so true. So when they come to this knowledge that you are giving them, when they come to this knowledge, and say, as a young man, he's been through, single, he had a single mother, didn't have a father in the home, and he's lost, he's joined a gang, and the gang has become his family. And what do you tell this young man, VA, about life? What would you tell him? I'm just giving a scenario. Your book sounds really great.
That's a perfect scenario. And really, that is the purpose of the book. The book, and I'm going to quote the book when I say this, there are levels to this. There are so many different levels of correction that this book provides for the young black man. The first level of correction that it provides is it provides him the opportunity to take a book and read it with the purpose of it bettering him. It was written for him as a tool to better him. And I know that it may seem like that may seem small or simple. It's just reading a book. I mean, people read books all the time to better themselves. But if you were to walk around and just suggest to young black men, just as you walk around, you can say, hey, listen to this song right here, and they'll be inclined to listen to it. But if you say, hey, read this book right here, and I'm going to be frank when I quote what is always told to me is, quote, unquote, niggas don't read. Yo, I don't be reading. Yo, I don't really be into all them books. That's what I hear, and that's a problem.
Yeah, but that's true. That's the truth.
And you can't, if the whole act of reading the book is in life in general, by reading, you are making efforts to better yourself. So if you are just going out and you are just letting the world know that you don't read, you are in turn letting the world know that you are not trying to better yourself.
Right.
And see, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
And so that's why I'm reaching out to everybody, the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the cousins, the girlfriends. You have the power to cut off resources to young men until they do something to better themselves. And they can at least make the step by reading this book, because I am willing to guarantee that by them opening up these pages and reading, they will start to see or start to feel a change or want to make a change.
That is so true, and not only is it true, but if they take what you're telling them in your book and they apply it, see, it's the applying that matters. They apply it to their life, then they can change, because the first change that you ever make is with your mind. Mm-hmm. Your mind has to change. Your focus on life has to change. And when you can change your mind, then everything else will follow that path. So what you're doing, VA, is you're helping to change their mind.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take much for gentlemen to look around and start to understand that, one, their actions are having consequences. And if they're not being careful with what they do with interacting with young ladies in this day and age, this is not 20 years ago. In this day and age, you could lose every single thing that you have worked hard for if you're not careful with how you interact with ladies in this day and age. And that's like the most important thing that this book is trying to teach a young man is like self-control in the one place that you have the most power. You have the most power in who you choose to give your body to and who you choose to be with. And so you should use this power as a way or as a platform to just have correction or self-control all throughout life. Because one of the common things that you hear about black men is that they lack self-control. And so the only way that we can progress in life is if we start to take the knowledge that was denied to us and apply it to ourselves so that we can control ourselves. Because if not, then we're asking for the reins of the master. And that's the system, that's court cases, that's child support, that's all these different methods of correction that force us to do the right thing after we've gone and messed up. And we should just now, since this book is out, we should just take this knowledge and just apply it so that we can avoid continually to make the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Yes, because you know what? That makes so much sense, what you're saying. Because if they take the knowledge and apply it to their life would have to change. Because if you are reading a book, the book Thinking with the Big Head, and you're telling them in this book, and you're telling them in this book, and it seems like it's biblically based, a lot of the things that you're saying, because I tell everybody, the Bible is the oldest book, but it's not old. Mm-mm. Because it applies to everything that we do in life today. And so your book, what you're saying is it's biblically based because you're telling them the right way to do things.
Correct.
This is how it's going to work if you do it this way.
And some examples that come from the Bible is just the story of Eve. I'm just going to give a few examples, and how Eve, in the process of her creation, God was looking to create a suitable helper for the man. And this is like really, really important because men are choosing women who aren't able to help them do anything, and then they don't understand why they're not getting anywhere in life. That's one. And two, men are choosing situations and not necessarily understanding that when you hurt your woman after you created this connection with this young lady, when you hurt this woman or when you do detrimental things to the woman, you're really hurting yourself.
So true.
And
that is so true.
I'm sorry.
I said that is so true. I want you to continue. I'm just saying that's true, what you just said. Very true.
Also, we shine a light on a little known fact that there were two creation stories in Genesis, and so we talk about this other being that is of a feminine origin who was created right along with Adam. And men know this woman who is, she seduces them. She always wants to have them out and about and breaking rules to be with her. It's kind of explaining to young men that this woman is not an Eve and that this woman can destroy you. Because a lot of men don't recognize that when you give yourself to a woman, or when a woman gives themselves to a man, there are real things that happen. You can call it friends with benefits or a one-night stand or whatever it is that you may want to call it with words. But in the real world, those physical interactions have real power. And so men will be giving themselves physically to a woman that mentally and spiritually wish ill will towards them. And then they don't understand why bad things happen and then why that woman leaves him high and dry. And a lot of times, this is the type of woman that he actually cheats on his Eve or his helper with, and he doesn't understand like why. And so biblically, I explain where that is or where that comes from, and how King Solomon warns to stay away from those type of women because their bedrooms are chambers of death.
Yes. And you know what? You're exactly right, and the Bible does warn them, and King Solomon does warn them to stay away from those type women. You know, it never ceases to amaze me, and I'm so glad that you touched on that subject, because there are a lot of men that think, and maybe I'm saying a lot, maybe I should say some. There are some men that think when they date a woman, or when they get married to this woman and things don't work out, that they should take the woman's life. We've had a lot of that going on around here. We've had 2 men in the last 3 months that killed their wives. These are young men, 24, 25 years old, that killed their wives. And, it's been on the news. And I'm just thinking that the enemy, which is Satan, the devil, has come into the marriages, and he has somehow deceived, and it goes back to what you're saying about the type of women that they marry, and then they end up murdering their wife because maybe she wasn't supposed to be with him in the first place. Because you talk about how they might choose the wrong woman and how this woman could be detrimental to them. And the thing is, VA, is that what you said, it makes so much sense, because if you choose someone that's not for you, that God has not sent to you, and they do something that, after you marry them, they do something that you think is so detrimental that you have to take their life, then that's the devil. God has to do with that. So I want you to go ahead and continue to talk, because I like what you're saying, because you're saying something that these young men and women need to hear.
And you actually touched on 2 points that I definitely make in the book. One is, and it's 2-pronged. These young men have to realize that you can't, and it's an ancient old saying, but young men don't know this, you can't win a war with words. And a lot of these young men, when they pick women and they pick those Liliths, they don't understand that those words that woman will say to you will drive you to it. They will drive you to that point, because the words are the sword or the weapon that the woman uses. And so when he starts to engage back and forth, he gets himself to the point, because of endorphins and this, that, and the third, to where he can't control himself. And that leads to something that I write in the book. If a man, in the process of quote unquote dating, if he notices that his woman or his young lady or his partner or his companion says things, i.e., the woman may refer to his mother as a bee or just hurtful things, he should maybe rethink that situation.
Right.
because that's something that truly progresses. And then two, the other thing that he has to realize, and it's a chapter unto itself, is the devil is a lie. And that just means the devil is a lie means that in your mind, the devil is going to tell you that the problems or the things that you're going through in life is someone else's fault. It's your woman's fault. Your woman didn't do this, or she didn't do that, or something happened that someone else was at fault and not you, and that's why you're in that situation. That is the biggest lie that the devil tells a man. And a man, when he acts upon it, he can never fix himself because he's always taking the problem out on his woman who he's trying to blame, or his parents who he may be trying to blame, or something outside of himself. And that's like the biggest thing in the section of the creation of the book that I want the man to kind of pick up on is you create your reality. You create it, not another person. If you are mindful of what you give your energy to, what you give your time to, what you give your body to, then you can start to make real life decisions that will alter your reality right in front of you, instead of trying to blame it on a woman or blame it on your parents or anything of that nature. Being locked up, I would hear it's everybody's fault that someone did something, but when you listen closely, the same thing that they talk about somebody forced them or coerced them to do, you could find them bragging about in certain circles. And the truth be told is, the man made the decision. And so if you make a decision, you should be man enough to deal with the consequences. And that's what thinking with the big head is all about, is the man making decisions and understanding the consequences or the repercussions or the rewards that come with the decision. If you can control your penis and you can control yourself, then you can control the interactions with a woman. But as soon as you give your penis to that woman, you start to fall into a situation that you may not control, and things can happen to you that are outside your control because you're giving yourself away to someone. And you just have to recognize it.
That is so true. That is so true. And you know what? If they did recognize it, if they did know that was true, then we wouldn't have as much stuff going on in the world today with males and females.
That is correct.
And also, you talk so well and you speak so well about some things that men should realize, and also some things that women should realize. And one thing that they should realize is it's not all about the body. It's not all about, like you said, the penis. It's not all about the woman and how her body looks. It's about what's in her head and not what's in between her legs. I always tell people that on my show. And see, when men start thinking about the head part, what's in their head, then they'll start thinking different. But what men see is what their eyes see first. They look at what they're seeing with their flesh, with their fleshly mind, and they don't look at what's in the lady's head, what she's thinking. And that can be a very detrimental thing, because you never can look at what's on the outside of a person to determine what that person is or who that person is. It's always what's in the inside, the places that you cannot see.
And that is absolutely true. And we touch on that in two spots in the book. The first spot that we touched on that is where we're following along the line of Adam's descendants in the creation section. And we talk about the twins Esau and Jacob. And these twins represent these battling natures that are within the young black man. And that battle is between his nature to hunt, using his physical instincts, and his nature to be a farmer and plan and plant for the future. Now, Jacob was denied to us. We, for hundreds of years, we're bred to live as Esau. We were bred to live as animals. We were bred to procreate in a way that the best men procreated physically with the best women physically to create the best physical specimen. But what we need to do now is learn how our Jacob works, which is how we are supposed to use our mind and our plans and our purpose to find our woman, or to find our other half, to find our companion, to find that piece of the puzzle that will make us whole. And that is something that has to be done using the mind. And so later on in the book, we talk about how this is done with using something called your POC, P-O-Q. And POC, or your POC, is your power of the question. And the power of the question is just using questions to learn. When you interact with people, you're always using the power of the question to understand who that person is, to understand what makes that person unique. And you also use it as an opportunity to allow yourself to be able to explain who you are by doing something that the book just touches on. And it's like a psychological thing where if you ask a person enough questions, if I was to ask you, how are you doing today? The most common answer is a person answering, I'm doing fine. How are you doing? And so by using the power of the question, the player, which is the title that a man is given in Thinking with the Big Head, because he's playing the game, the player uses this POC to understand the world and to understand what type of things he likes, what type of things he doesn't like, who is there to help him, who is there to not help him, what are the intentions of the people around him, just by using the power of asking.
Wow. Wow, I like that.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah, that's great. I tell you one thing. If they read your book, I don't care if they're African American, if they're Asian, if they're white, if they're whatever nationality, they will come away with better thinking. They will come away with a new mindset if they read your book. And see, that's why I say not only just for African American men, but for men in general, they need to read this book. I know some things are for African American men, but the majority can take away from this book. It doesn't matter where they come from, because I have noticed in this world today, it is not really about the nationality, because we all have our own ghetto. Every nationality has its ghetto. I don't care where they come from.
That is true.
I don't care where they come from. They could be in India. They got their ghetto in India. I've talked to people in South Africa. They got their ghettos there. And you know, everybody has their ghetto. And so when we always say African American men, but you know what I've learned, and we do have our specific problems in our society, but I've also learned that it is deeper than that.
It is. And this is where I had to be honest with myself and just I mean, it's the truth. Black men, American black men, have the ability to create. They have the ability to make fads. And so what I am looking to do with this book is make it a fad, or make it cool, make the challenge for the young black man to control himself.
Right.
Because if he can do it, and he can, because we're the cream of the crop. Our athletes their physical bodies are the cream of the crop. We hold an African American man, partly African American man, holds the White House. Like we have the ability to set trends, and this is the trend that we want to start to set, is that we are building kingdoms, and we're starting with our own family.
Yes, we are, and that right there says a lot. We're building kingdoms and we're starting with our own families. That says a lot because, and I always go back to back in the day, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We black men had African American men, black men had problems 20 years ago. They've had problems 50 years ago, 80 years ago. But what has happened to the black man is that the respect that he used to have for himself is not there anymore. That's what I've seen lost. Even with the civil rights struggle, your black men still had respect. Even through the civil rights struggles in the 60s, when they were getting spat on, when they were getting beaten with clubs, and they still had respect for themselves and for others.
Yeah, but then once they started identifying themselves as a nigga, but that's it. I mean, that's it. Once you identify, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. The county that I grew up in was approximately 93% white. And what I was always told was the N-word was ignorant. That's what it meant. And so when you identify with ignorance, then that's the consequence. And I mean, it really comes down to the fundamental things that people say and do. When growing up, I was ridiculed for, quote unquote, talking white or speaking properly. But if you take a step back and you think, how does one learn how to speak properly? They read and they write. Reading and writing is fundamental in success. So logic would just tell us that you're making fun of or you're poking fun of things that a person needs to be successful.
That's true. And
go ahead.
I think that where that comes from, VA, is this. Where that ridicule comes from is that we ridicule things that we do not understand or things that we can't do ourselves. We make fun of. And so the ones that were making fun of you or were ridiculing you is because they wanted to speak like that and they couldn't, or they didn't take the time to learn how to enunciate words. Yeah. And so you ridicule what you can't do or what somebody else is doing that you want to do.
Well, I remember growing up, Colin Powell was very heavy on the political scene. And the one thing, and even comedian Chris Rock would make fun of it, people would make fun of it, but it was the common thing that people would say about the likes of Colin Powell and Barack Obama is the ability to speak so well. Like, they speak well. They're the way that they speak, and that in itself is just a sign of a person that reads and writes, when you get out and you talk to these young men nowadays, and you hear how many of them want to be quote unquote an artist or a rapper or this, that, and the third. You want to write, but you don't want to learn. There's they want to do all this stuff, but they don't want to put in the time to learn. Like, it's more. There's more to it, and that's what Thinking with the Big Head is all about. It's like teaching them that you have to put in the work, you have to put in the time, because Adam took that fruit, being great, being what it is that you were meant to be. It is hard. There is no easy way out. It's all about hard work. It's all about the grind. It's all about the time that you put in. That's where the rewards come from. And all of these things, I think that if they can be applied or suggested or talked about, we could bring about a change, because something has to happen. We can't continue to go on this way. We can't continue to fill the jails the way we do. We see on the news the police are not playing. The police are killing us. The police are locking us up. I just read today how the FBI has been lying and falsifying documents as far as hair and DNA follicles and testing is concerned. Like, the system is not set up for us to succeed. And so it's not about us complaining about the system. It's about us working to better and control ourselves, reading for ourselves, learning for ourselves, taking care of our families for ourselves, being the man at home before we be the man in the world for ourselves. And then that's how things can change. Not complaining about someone else or not complaining about a woman or anything else. Analyzing our decisions, analyzing who we give our body to, who we give our time to, and making decisions based upon that instead of making decisions based upon what someone else told them.
That is good. I like that.
I'm sorry if I talk too much.
And no, I want you to talk. You know what? Because you're telling the truth. See, I want you to talk because you're telling the truth. And my listeners need to hear the truth. I'm all about the truth. See, so when I talk to you and you're telling me the things that you're telling me that's in your book, and you're telling me the things that African-American men need to do, not only African-American men, but it applies to all men in general, if you really think about it. And what you've done is you've written from your heart, and I can tell that it comes from your heart, and that makes a difference when something comes from your heart, see. And we can tell that by your passion, the way you talk about it, the way you're speaking of it, and it's a passion to help other young African-American men to understand that their lives can be different if they change their way of thinking.
Yeah. And the common thing that I hear, and you can hear it in the music and you hear it in the courtroom and you hear it all the time, is, I did not know better. Well, that time, that excuse, that thing is over with. There is knowledge available that will teach you better. And once you know better, it opens up the doors to be able to do better. And just so people don't think that this is some big, thick book, the book is only 209 pages, and there are correlating YouTube videos for the chapters online. So if a person is having trouble with reading, as long as they put forth the effort, the YouTube videos are there to explain everything in detail. But once again, it's still about putting forth the effort of reading and internalizing this process and seeing the faults or seeing what is going on in the person's life. So they could listen to me and watch the YouTube videos. We will be putting music behind the videos to make them a little more listener-friendly. They are very, very detailed, but I really think that the book is something that the gentlemen could keep with them. They could take notes. They could highlight. And, I mean, a lot of it is just it's what I like to call a throwback. I mean, back in the day, a gentleman would have a black book. And, of course, you know, if you watch Martin, you will see Jerome, the old player. But there's certain things to be learned from that. Like, that black book not only contained phone numbers, but it contained valuable notes that young men would take as they went throughout the day when they learned something. Like, young men have to realize, especially black men, that life is about learning. Life is not just about leisure. It's about work, learning, and then through all of that hard work and through all of that learning, you finally get to enjoy leisure. But there is no leisure without hard work. And saying, oh, I'm black, oh, it's hard, that's not an excuse. That's what's supposed to motivate you, because you're a young black man, because you have all these attributes and gifts. It's supposed to be hard for you. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not easy being Kobe Bryant. It's not easy being Michael Jordan. It's not easy being the best. You have to put in work to be the best. And if you notice, we're the trendsetters, we're the leaders, and we are by nature the best. And I could take a lot of slack from that, and I'm willing to, because I know as a black man, I've been called the worst. So since someone can call me the worst, I feel that I should be able to tell myself that I am the best.
That's good. I like that. I like that, because guess what? If you don't encourage yourself, no one else will encourage you. And to encourage yourself and to say that you are the best is an encouragement, because like you say, a lot of African American men have been seen as the worst.
The worst.
So when you say African American men are the best, that's good, because that's encouraging. That's encouraging.
And that's all. Like, that's all that it's about, recognizing the king, like not the slave within you. I mean, we need to get it out of that mind state. There's too much technology. There's too much resources available for us to still continue to think that we come from slaves, or to still think that our brothers that are from Africa are running around in the jungle, and so we think that we're better than them. We need to stop all of that. We need to recognize where we come from. We need to recognize that we are the source of all knowledge and civilization. And so since we are the source of these things, we should govern ourselves as such.
True. That is so true. We should govern ourselves as such. And when we govern ourselves as such, then the world will see us as we should be, not as what the media says that we are. Not handcuffed, not going to jail, not being an absent father. All the negative things will change once we change and start doing the things that we should do. See? And please, I'm not trying to poke at anyone's dreams, but we need to stop. Everybody cannot, and I have to be honest, because we get made in so many circles. We are laughed at because of this simple thing. Everybody cannot be a rapper. Everybody has to stop aspiring to be a rapper. I'm sorry. I've been in the music industry. I'm here to tell you that everybody cannot be a rapper, and you cannot justify not working, not taking care of responsibilities, not putting your future first because you want to be a rapper. That is not reality. Why do you think, and you know what, I've been in the hip-hop industry for a long time, just because I used to have groups and things like that I would manage and things like that, but that's way in the past. But what I'm saying, why do you think so many young African-American men now want to aspire to be rappers? What is that? What is causing that?
I'm going to answer your question with a question. Are you familiar with what show right now is breaking all TV rating records?
Empire.
Okay, then that's the answer of your own question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. Do you see? Tell me this. Now, we have a black president in the White House. Why is there not a show about some hardworking black man that's a political figure, and he comes home and he takes care of his family? Where's our modern day Bill Cosby? That's Bill Cosby modeled off of Bill Cosby and Barack Obama.
Right.
It's every single thing, every single agenda that other people want to push. They use us to push those agendas because they recognize that we set the trends.
Well, you know what? That's true. And the stereotype that's being portrayed on Empire is a stereotype. stereotypical.
Yes.
And that's what sells, unfortunately. I say today that's what sells, because back in the day, Bill Cosby, his shows, other shows that ran off that show, those type of that showed positive images of African American people back in the day. That's what sold then, but somehow stereotypical things are selling now. And it just shows you a generation has come and gone, and this new generation, and it's almost, it's like, okay, as long as it's stereotypical, as long as it's showing something negative, a negative portion of what African Americans can be, then it's going to sell. As long as it's negative, and it'll sell. And that's the sad thing about this society today, this generation today, is that you want to portray something like that, stereotypical, because you had to get an actor and an actress to want to play that role. You know it. So, it's deeper than just what it looks like on TV. It's deeper than that.
And I actually have an appendix in the book, and it's the Willie Lynch letter. And so what it is, what all of that is for is just to open the ideas that there are things and systems out there in place to want to keep you divided, keep you dumb, keep you in this mind state. But once again, as Thinking with the Big Head talks about, it's all about choices. It's all about, at some point in time, life is going to show you that this is not the way, but a man has to make a choice, and only he can make that choice. Only we can recognize when enough is enough. And I mean, it really has to start in the bedroom. I know it can start a whole lot of places, but it has to start there, because that one thing is something that affects all of society. 70% of high school dropouts come from single-parent family homes. 70% of people incarcerated, single-family homes. Like, there are things that are happening that are now starting to take tolls and having societal costs. And what I personally fear is that the African-American black man in America is going to feel some unnecessary consequence or burden to these actions, because it's like, if you're not willing to take care of your own creation, if you're not willing to be loyal to your wife or your family, or you're not willing to do these things, what are you to society? Like, what good are you? What do you bring to the table when numbers start to grow and resources start to become stretched? When we're sitting down at the table as a people, what are we bringing to the table past sports, past rapping, past, like, what else are we doing? Because culturally, family is the cornerstone of any type of community, and our communities are known for not having the right type of families. So how are we going to answer for that?
Right. That's true.
I mean, we are like the poster child for not taking care of our responsibilities, not having any morals when we're out in the streets. I mean, we can't help how the police treat us, but what we can help is what it is that we are doing and how we're governing ourselves in the streets. Walking around with your pants hanging down below whatever, feeling like you're too good to work any type of job, like 9 to 5, and the man won't let you on. All of these things have to be let go, because all of those things are things that are holding us back.
That is so true, and that right there says a lot, because it's how you portray yourself, and it's what your mindset is. If your mind says it's okay to walk around with your bottom showing, and that this is cool, this is acceptable by society, and to call your young women B's and H's, and to be disrespectful to others as well as yourself.
And your mother. Don't forget your mother. We're getting to the point now where that was something that we never did. We never disrespected our mothers. But now, young men are disrespecting their mothers, and that
is really a sad situation right there. The mother was off limits.
It was.
You never disrespected your mother, and if they're doing that now, it is really, really, really bad. And so, I want our young men to go out there when they hear this interview. I want them to go out there and get that book, Thinking with a Big Head, because you got a lot of things in there that's just really, really good, and that they need to hear. That's the truth, and they need to hear it. And it might change some minds. I hope it'll change some minds. I hope they would think about what they're doing and change their mind, and then their mindset, and then again their heart will change, and then they'll make a change. See, it takes a process. It's a process. You got to keep feeding them the information that they need so they can change their mind and then change their mindset, because there's so much negative out there. The devil has planted so much negativity into the hearts of our young people, and it's really, really taking a toll on the community as a whole because of it. But thanks be unto God that he uses people like you to write books. He uses other people that write books and that can go out there and share, what they know will work, what they not only hear, but what they know, because you're writing from your heart. The things that you're writing about comes from your heart. And see, they don't listen to that. They listen to the truth. I know that for a fact. They listen to that. And what we're going to have to do is speak more of the truth, tell more of the truth to our young people so they can come back to what we know that they should be, not what the world and society says that they are. Because if you look at society as a whole, the stereotypes that they have for young African-American men is terrible. It's terrible, the stereotypes. Yeah, we have our great athletes, but then we got athletes that are going to jail, that are losing their scholarships from these great colleges because they took drugs, or they beat on their girlfriends, and they're losing scholarships left and right. So yes, we have a problem, but yes, it can be solved, and the only way it's going to be solved is by people like you writing books, telling them these, you can come out of this. This is what you should be doing. It's like my radio show, how, I come at them with the truth of the word of God. And it's just going to take all of us to help get our young people back to where Father God says that they should be,
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to tell me about I See You Online, and I know we're running out of time, but I just want you to tell me about that website.
I See You Online is a social entrepreneur venture that I'm working on, and what it is it's a social network that allows people to share who they are on the inside. I see you, EYE, the letter C, the letter U. It means one mind's eye seeing another mind's eye, or the person inside. And I just think that that's important growing up, because like me growing up, I had this stereotype during the gangster era that young men were supposed to be gangsters. And so I wanted to be a nerd, but being a nerd wasn't socially acceptable. So I wanted to create a place where people could share their thoughts and share who they were on the inside, since there's so many social networks that allow people to show like their physical attributes or rewards. And Green Thought is using the power of love, learning, and communication to fight fear, ignorance, and isolation.
Wow. I like that.
Oh,
I like that.
well, thank you. And I mean, it's a place. There's just general concepts that ICU just kind of stand for. Each one teach one. Everyone has a purpose, and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is more precious than like money and jewels, because it's your knowledge and your wisdom, what you experience and what you know, that makes you unique. And by you sharing those things, you can have a real life-changing effect on someone. You could keep them from making a decision that would cost them their lives, or you could be giving them the support to step out on faith to where they're able to achieve their dream just because you may know. And so by sharing those things and promoting those things, we're starting just to get back to the basis of what we need to do as a people to start to rebuild America. Because if we can't learn from one another and communicate with one another and love one another, how can we ever expect to live in peace with one another?
Wow. I like that thought. I like that. I do. And it's the truth. That's what's so good about it. I know I'm running out of time, but I want you to tell my listeners how they can get in touch with you. I know you just gave them your website address. Is there any other way that they can get in touch with you? Tell them if you got an email address that they can contact you, or I know you got your book out. The book is already out, Thinking with the Big Heads. Is that correct?
Yes. So if they wanted, okay, you can get the book at Amazon or Barnes and Noble or iTunes. It's $17.95 for the hard copy, $4.99 for the ebook. If you have questions from the book, if there's something that you want to you want clarity on or something like that, you can go to YouTube and just search Thinking with the Big Head. If it's a certain chapter, you can just type in the chapter and Thinking with the Big Head, and videos will pop up. If you also want to interact with me more, you can send questions to thinkingwiththebighead@gmail.com. I'm also a life coach who also helps with relationships. So if you are actually looking to find someone to actually help you figure out things, you can also contact me at badagov@gmail for any type of life coaching or relationship issues. I will be traveling all throughout the South. I'm looking forward to sitting down with anybody that wants to talk or anybody that wants to share this message. So please feel free. I have you can contact me on Facebook, Thinking with the Big Head, or Jamil Aaron on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, on Tumblr. So please follow me through social media. But really, I want to just stress this really quickly. Okay. In this day and age, a young black man, if you're dating a young black man in this day and age, he may ask you within 6 months for you to buy him something to smoke. He may ask you to buy him a bottle to drink. He may even ask you, he may be bold enough to ask you to buy him a pair of tennis shoes. He may even go to the point and ask to sleep with you. If you are willing to do any of those things, if you're willing to buy any of those things for a black man, then you should be willing to spend $18 to buy him this book. Because this book, whether good or bad times, it will help him out. Whether he is locked up or whether he is getting ready to go into the NFL, this book will be able to help him make better decisions on the path of life. And since you would be willing to buy him anything else, $18, which you can't buy anything to smoke or anything to drink and not spend around that amount of money, you should be able to just buy him this piece of positive empowerment that you can give him that can change his life.
Wow. I like that. And I hope that my listeners will go out and get this book. I know they will. Like you said, something like like this book that can help them to give them, another outlook on life, something positive that they can do and that they can have on them and share it with others and all of that. They can do that with just buying this book for $17.95. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, my listeners definitely will hear this interview. I will put this interview out there on probably be midnight tonight or early in the morning, whichever way. I'm going to email you, VA, with this interview, and I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, and then I'll email you the YouTube link also, so you'll have it.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much, VA.
I want to thank you.
SelfControl Radio.biz tonight.